G'day guys, and welcome back to the saw shop. Don't know why my video played up, but I've lost the footage of installing this oiler, so I'm actually going to take it off and show you guys how to do it again. It's pointless because there's a couple of little bits and pieces here that have got to be done. So I'm just going to take it off quickly. Doesn't take long, it's only 2 screws. Alright, and it'll just pop off. So I guess what I wanted to show you guys was this is the oil output from the oil tank, and this is the oil pump output. So I guess you could call that the oil pump input and the oil pump output. This is the output from the tank, and this is the output from the pump, which will eventually feed the gallery up here to feed your bar oil. There's a little rubber grommet that goes in there. On the pump itself, you have your pump input and your pump output and your pump input. They both need to be pushed into these grommets, otherwise you're going to have a leak and you're just going to have a horrible time with your saw again. So I'll show you quickly how that goes down and we'll go from there. Okay? So basically, it just presses down and into those grommets like that. Then we have two 5mm by 12mm, 5mm by 12mm screws. Screw into here, we'll just start them off gently. Just like this. And then once they're both seating and touching, that's when we start to crank down on them. Just nice and even so that we don't crack or warp the oil pump like that. And then the oil pump driver, which is this piece here, this little tang here engages a notch. Not sure whether you can see that, but that notch in the clutch, so that'll engage that notch. So as the clutch spins, it spins the oiler. Now, to tighten this up, it's actually left-hand thread, right? So left-hand thread, and then that'll sit there like that. Your next piece is your oil pump guard or oil pump plate, and you'll see it conveniently it's punched with top, so that just sits down on there like that. Then you've got your clutch. Okay, now clutch again is left-hand thread, but you'll notice on one side it's flat and on the other side it's got a hex head on there, or a nut, whatever you want to call it. That faces out, so if you ever have to get your clutch off again, that's what that's for. Helps you to get it on and off. Alright, so that goes straight on there like that, and it's just a left hand thread on there, and it'll go all the way to the bottom, just like that. Okay, now at this point we're not going to fit the clutch drum, only because there are other bits and pieces we're going to fit. So another very, very simple piece for people to fit, this is the impulse line. Okay, so if you have a quick look, you'll find right here on the rear end of the cylinder, so that's where your handle would be, here, the rear end of the cylinder, this slips down onto that nipple. So I'll just do that quickly. Make sure it's all the way down and on there properly. There's some of that 2-stroke oil coming out of the top there that you can see, nice clean oil. I like to clean it off. I like to keep the saws clean as I'm working on them. Keep everything clean, or as clean as you can, and we'll go from there. So I suppose the next thing we can do, because sort of building saws depends on what the model of the saw is, but they're sort of you go backwards and forwards doing sections. I've become accustomed to doing certain things at certain points in the saw, and as I said to you guys earlier, hey, my way is not the right way. My way is my way. You know, you may have a far better way of doing things, and if it works, that's great. You know, put a comment below and tell me if your way is better. Or tell me how you do it, and I'll give it a crack and see if it is better. But this is how I build saws anyway. So the chain tensioner, I guess this is upside down. I should put it the right way around for you guys to see. Hey, chain tensioner rides in here. Okay, and essentially it's made up of multiple components, obviously. But it's a very, 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 very basic thing. And what I'm going to do is I'll quickly knock this one up before putting it into the saw, and then I'll show you exactly how I go about installing it. So the chain adjuster, there is one slight trick to it, and that's what I'll point out here. I'm not really sure if the camera, oh yeah, the camera's picking it up. You'll see down in there I've placed a little O-ring. That O-ring basically stops the tensioner locking against the case. It just gives it a little bit of slip so that your tension is not so hard to adjust. So I suppose the first thing we're going to do is, this is the tensioner itself. Obviously that sits inside the hole of your bar. Alright, that will sit straight down in the hole like that. Okay, its job is it'll slide backwards and forwards along here quite happily in this groove. Okay, you'll find this black plastic, not really sure if the camera picks that up well or not, but it's a little black plastic tie, and it can only go in one way. That slips down in here, pushes down, and that locks in. Okay, then your little adjuster here. Now at this point here, obviously these are just some little metal on metal gears. We don't really want to run them dry, so what I like to do is I just use my bar grease like this, just push a bit on there, just like that. This is high temp, high performance grease, so that's what I like to use. Again, you use what you've got. Obviously, then you've got your little shroud that holds this all down and in. Now, same deal. I like to just fill this little divot here up with a little bit of grease. Not much. Doesn't take a lot. And then I'll sit that back down on there, just like that. Using my scrunch tool, just push down, that'll splooge the grease in a little bit. And then you'll find this little fella here. This is a 3mm by 10mm screw, and the same thing applies with this. You need to use the right screws and the right bits and pieces, otherwise you'll bust your case. Alright, so that goes down into this little screw hole here, and we can use our scrunch tool for that, flap loaded scrunch tool for this one, I think, yep. And we just wind that in, and that'll hold that down. Okay. Now remember, this is a 3mm screw, so don't go, as we like to say, ape shit, because you'll snap it. Alright, it's just got to be firm. We'll run the screw backwards and forwards a few times. It's going to be firm the first few times that you do this, because the grease needs to work its way around those gears. So that's just how that goes. Alright. So that's the gears in there taken care of. Now, what I will say is under here, where your threads engage onto this, same deal. It doesn't hurt to put a little bit of grease on those, although the grease, I tend to find the sawdust attracts pretty heavily to it, so that's why I usually only use it underneath the cap. A little bit of WD-40. It's probably the only place on a chainsaw I use this. It's just a little bit of WD-40 on there, and that's it. And I find you've only got to do it once, only because once you've run this a few times, it's going to have plenty of bar oil and stuff on it. But you can see they really do work well. On top of that sits this piece. Now this piece can only go one way, and all this piece is a spacer, right? I'll just have to wind this out all the way. It can only go one way, guys, all right? And it's just a spacer. It sits inside here like this, all right? The sole purpose of that is so when you fit your scraper guard, it's got support underneath. So it's basically to stop this from being crushed. Okay? But we're not fitting this plate today. All right? We're not going to fit that plate today. Only because I'm not going to fit it because we've got to fit all the chain brake and everything else. Okay? So that basically is your oiler, your clutch, your chain adjustment or bar adjustment, and your impulse line done. I think that's probably enough for this video. I want to try and keep the videos short so you're not bored out of your brains, and I'll see you on the next one.